What's a guy like you doing here?
Just heading home.
In the quiet suburbs of Willow Creek, Illinois, where maple trees lined the streets and families barbecued on weekends, a man named James Thompson gripped the steering wheel of his old Ford pickup. The late afternoon sun dipped low, casting golden hues over the familiar route home from his job at the local distribution center. At 52, James had traded the adrenaline of his military days for the steady rhythm of loading crates and punching clocks. No more covert missions in distant lands, just honest work, a modest house, and the peace he'd fought so hard to earn. But on this ordinary Friday in June, as a patrol car tailed him through the winding roads, James felt an old instinct styra prickling at the back of his neck that whispered danger. He checked his mirrors, noting the car's steady pursuit. No sirens yet, but something felt off. James had served 12 years as a Green Beret in Special Forces, surviving ambushes in Afghanistan and Iraq. He'd seen enough to know when a situation was rigged. Slowing to a stop at a construction zone on Elm Street where barriers funneled traffic into a narrow lane kept his hands visible. The patrol car pulled up behind, lights flashing. 2 officers approached, their steps heavy with purpose. What started as a routine stop would unravel into a nightmare, exposing the rot beneath Willow Creek's idyllic facade and forcing James to confront whether true justice could ever prevail in a system stacked against the innocent. James kept his cool as the taller officer, Reynolds, rapped on the window with his flashlight, even though daylight still streamed in. "License and registration," Reynolds barked, his tone laced with disdain. "And what's a guy like you doing in this part of town?" James, a black man in a neighborhood that had grown increasingly upscale and less diverse over the years, knew the implication. He moved slowly, announcing his actions. "Reaching for my wallet now, officer." The second cop, Hayes, sneered from the sidelines. "This truck looks stolen to you. Better check the plates." As James handed over his documents, Reynolds scanned them with mock suspicion. "James Thompson, huh? Living here in Willow Creek? Since when?" James replied evenly, "About 3 years now. Headed home from work." But the officers crowded him, forcing him out of the truck and backing him against a concrete barrier. The construction workers nearby paused, sensing trouble. Reynolds leaned in close, his breath hot. "You won't see home tonight." The words hung like a death sentence. James's training kicked in. He spotted the tremor in Hayes's hand on his holster, the way Reynolds shifted his weight for a draw. Time slowed. Reynolds pulled his gun first, pressing it into James's side. "Resist a little, make it easy." But James twisted away in a blur of motion, years of hand-to-hand combat, drills guiding him. He drew his concealed carry pistol, firing once into Reynolds' shoulder. The officer staggered, his shot going wild into the barrier. Hayes panicked, unloading rounds haphazardly. James rolled to cover, returning fire with precision to disable, not kill. Shell casings clattered, the air reeked of gunpowder. Hayes fled, radioing for backup, while Reynolds lay wounded. James slipped away, heart pounding, knowing this was no accident. These cops had hunted him. He made it to his sister Emily's house on the edge of town, tires screeching into her driveway. Emily, a 48-year-old civil rights lawyer with a fire in her eyes inherited from their late mother, yanked him inside. "What the hell happened?" she demanded, bolting the door. James collapsed on her couch, recounting the ambush. "They were going to execute me, Em. Whispered it right in my ear." Her face hardened. "This fits the pattern. I've heard whispers of similar stops, Black, men vanishing after encounters with that precinct." As sirens wailed in the distance, her laptop pinged with a news alert. Shaky body cam footage had leaked online, showing the officer's aggression. Comments flooded in, "Hero veteran fights back," versus "cop shooter on the loose." The video went viral, sparking protests outside the Willow Creek police station. Hashtags like "Justice for James" trended, but the department spun it fast. Captain Elias Thorne, a burly veteran of the force with a reputation for iron-fisted control, held a press conference. "This suspect, a former Special Forces operator with a violent history, ambushed our officers without provocation. He's a threat to public safety." They released edited clips showing only James's shots, painting him as a rogue. Emily fumed. "They're terrified because you're not the easy victim they expected." James nodded, the weight settling in. I tried to leave that life behind, but they dragged me back. Hiding in Emily's basement, James watched the news as Thorne's men raided the neighborhood. Armored vehicles rolled in at dawn, SWAT teams kicking down doors, terrorizing families. An elderly neighbor, Mr. Patel, had his garden torn up. A young mother shielded her kids as officers ransacked her home. Voluntary searches, they called it, but resistance meant suspicion. James clenched his fists. They're punishing everyone to flush me out. Emily coordinated with allies via encrypted apps. The ACLU's filing suits, but Thorne's got the mayor convinced you're a terrorist. The tension built as Thorne's narrative fractured. A journalist, Ethan Wright, contacted Emily through back channels. In a shadowy parking garage, James met him, detailing the stop. I've been investigating Reynolds for months. Patterns of disappearances, all minority men. Ethan broadcast the full story that night, including unedited footage from nearby cameras. This was an attempted murder by corrupt cops, he declared on air. Viewers watched in shock as the truth unfolded. Social media erupted, protests swelled. But Thorne struck back viciously. Masked men torched the studio during the live feed. Ethan, trapped inside, perished in the flames. James and Emily watched in horror. He died for this, James whispered, guilt gnawing at him. Days later, a tip led James to a warehouse meet for more evidence. It was a trap. Thorne's team ambushed him. James took down several with expert takedowns before Hayes cracked him with a baton. Dragged away in cuffs, James glared at Thorne. This isn't over. In solitary at the county jail, James endured isolationo water, constant lights, guards' taunts. Think your army tricks work here, killer? But his resolve held, drawing on survival training. Emily visited, promising federal probes. Hold on, brother. A turning point came from within. Rookie officer Luis Vargas, haunted by the cover-up, slipped Emily a surviving drive from the fire. Make it count, he urged. In a church basement, Emily and activists streamed the raw footage, clear proof of the setup. The broadcast looped, evading shutdowns. Crowds surged, the feds descended. In court, Officer Hayes cracked under questioning. Thorne ordered the hit to silence him. Thorne stormed in, ranting, only to be arrested mid-tirade. Charges against James dropped. He walked free amid cheers. Months later, on the steps of City Hall, James addressed a massive rally. I was just a guy trying to live quietly, but they forced my hand. Now, we demand reform oversight boards, body cam transparency. No more silence. Flanked by Emily and Vargas, he became a beacon for change. Thorne and his cronies faced prison, the department overhauled. James, vindicated, led community efforts, proving one man's stand could spark a movement. What do you think about the themes of violence and injustice in this story? Share your opinions in the comments below. Do you believe standing up against corruption is worth the risk, or should people stay silent for safety? Take a stand and let me know your views.